15% or more of homes fell out of contract in July 2025. That is the biggest amount in a very long time. So who's at fault here? Is it realtors? Is it the economy? Is it a lot of things? We're gonna go through and talk about it. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna show you some of the numbers from the fallouts. The tips I'm gonna give you at the end of this will help you. If you're a seller, 15% of homes are falling out. Why is that? What should I be asking my agent? If I'm a buyer, what should I be doing ahead of time to prepare? So let's get into this. I'm Jeremy Knight, your favorite Austin realtor. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, because look, here's the deal. I give out a lot of really good information on here. Unless you're subscribed, you may not know about it. Subscribe and also share this to a friend that's buying or selling right now. This numbers just came out. This was from a Redfin article, and it went through and talked about all of the reasons why 1 out of 7 homes fell out of contract last month. And I actually went over to Facebook and asked my realtor friends, why are they seeing homes falling apart or sales falling apart? And some of these answers might actually shock you. Number one, let's talk about the job market. So the job market just got revised down in May, right? Down 120,000, June 133,000 jobs, and a combined 253,000 jobs reduced. That is actually one of the highest outside of a recession since 1968. That is a lot of homes that are falling out of contract. Now, look, the economy is one of those reasons, right? And on my thing here, when I asked, a few people said that they had clients fall out of contract because of a job. And so that is one reason people are falling out. But look, interest rates on homes have dropped back down in the 6.5 range, right? Which is good. So even on top of that, we've actually seen that more mortgage applications have gone up, right? So the amount of mortgage applications week over week are going up, which shows you that buyers are getting kind of in the market, but they're still uncertain about the market. So that uncertainty still is lagging. Some of the responses on this Facebook post that I'm going to go through will actually talk about really how so many different markets are different. In fact, if you look at the Redfin article about the cancellations, it's ridiculous to see some of the numbers in different areas. So we'll go through that in a second. But look, the economy, absolutely a major problem for a lot of consumers. Let's talk about buyers that are going to start looking for a home. One of the things that came up on this post was the costs of everything. And really, my friend Christina Smallhorn talked about the cost of insurance going up. Well, I looked it up. Insurance rates have gone up drastically in the last few years, right? So if we're looking at homeowners insurance, in Illinois and Arizona, up 50%, 59% increase in premiums between 2021 and 2024. But it's not just that, right? It's also property taxes. In Austin, we just talked about how the city wants to raise property taxes again after home values have declined. Now in Texas, every single year you can protest your valuation of your home, and every year they reassess the value of your home. Now every state's different, but those costs have gone up. I'm curious, in the area that you live in, have property taxes gone up or down? Have you seen insurance go up or down? Texas, Colorado, Utah, Nebraska, all areas that are getting hit with these increases, especially California. Obviously, there was some fires there recently. But this leads me to one question that I actually saw in here that was really, really good. And my friend Edgar brought it up. And it's buyers second guessing themselves and getting cold feet. And look, one of the things that he talked about in his post was that they would finally get the total cost sheet of what the home was going to cost them, and it would make them nervous, and they would back out for that reason. So what happens is, and this is what's really, really important, is as you as a consumer, I get this all the time, buyers will reach out to me and go, I want to see a house, but they haven't gone through the pre-approval process. And a lot of times I will say, no, let's not do that. Let's go through the pre-approval process first, because the reality is looking at a home at $500,000 may have a lot of hidden fees. And until you see the fee sheet on that exact house, you may not know what all of the hidden fees are, and then you go under contract. You spend money to go under contract. I'm gonna talk about realtors because realtors are a problem in this. Yes, I'm calling out my realtor friends, but they'll get the fee sheets and then they'll back out because they're nervous. But here's the thing. If you get a pre-approval and talk to a lender, they will tell you about all the different prices. Now look, here's the thing. Once you've got that pre-approval, you know that process. The other thing is these buyer agents, you buyers, spend the time and sit down with a realtor and do a proper buyer consultation. If a realtor just is excited to sell you a home and you can tell they're just excited to sell you a home, take a pause and go, is this the right realtor for me? Because if I'm going to a buyer consultation, I want to know how the exact process works from A to Z. Our job as realtors is to take the excitement out of buying a house. Yes, my number one job, and I tell this to every single client, is number one is not to sell you a home, it is to protect you and your assets. My job is to take some of the joy out of buying the home and give you the reality, and some agents are not setting that up. In the buyer consultation, ask a lot of questions, understand what you're going through, understand some of the costs, because that is a major part of buying a home. Because one of the examples on here was buyers getting the actual fee sheets at the end, right? So what I would recommend is if you're a buyer, the market is not moving as fast in most areas. Now, back in 2021, people were writing crazy offers. Now, I'm gonna sit with my agent and go, hey, on this property, how much, what are the comps? Should we be going and writing offers below these comps? Show me the comps, okay? Give me the seller's disclosure, because this is one of the things that's a big problem on here. I wanna see the seller's disclosure, and oh, by the way, I saw this. Let me ask these questions first, because here's what happens with some of these agents. In Texas, we have a thing called an option period. Now, in other states, they're all done differently. Sometimes you pay for them, sometimes you don't. In Texas, you pay for an option period, and it's, $500. I'm just throwing a number out there. You're gonna negotiate this in the contract, but like $500 paid to the seller, and it gives you 7 days to do your due diligence. Well, you're putting money up front. Then you go do your inspections, then you get all the reports back, then you do some of these things. What I would do in this market is ask more questions ahead of time. Stop wasting your money on inspections and going through the process, and ask a ton of questions ahead of time, right? Did the seller have foundation issues? Did they have roof issues? How old is the roof? Hey, I'm gonna call my insurance company and say, hey, can this roof be insured? And these are things that are all gonna save you a lot of money, because the insurance, which Christina talked about, people backing out because of insurance reasons. Like, let's say a roof is 15 years old and the insurance company, you go put the home under contract, the insurance company goes, you know what? Nope, we're not gonna insure this roof. You're gonna fall out of contract. Is the seller gonna spend that money to fix the roof? Maybe, maybe not. And we're gonna go through some of those things. So do more due diligence before you go under contract. We literally just had a contract right now where there was some stuff that looked like mold in the ceiling. And instead of putting it under contract, we asked the seller to have it inspected first. The seller did have it inspected, came back, it was mold, and they are remediating it before we go under contract. Okay, so those are some of the things that you should be looking out as a consumer. But yes, all of these things lead to cold feet. And cold feet is a big one, because look, in the option period, so like I said in Texas, and this is another big reason, is we have a lot of options. There's a lot of options. And right now in Austin, there's like 15,000 homes on the market. It's the highest inventory in a very long time. So if I'm a buyer and I put something under contract and a new home hits the market that's a better price, better location, I may move on that home and back out. So as a consumer, you're out the $500 in the scenario I gave you. You're out the $500 that you gave to the seller for the option period, which means you can back out. The second thing you're out is if you did inspections. But if you ask a lot of questions ahead of time, then you may not put yourself in that situation. My friend here in this post said, so Sandra said, I told my out-of-state seller his house would need a foundation repair. He said that he had it looked at and there was no big problem. Buyer submitted an offer, foundation repairs came up, and they terminated the next day. Returning buyer under contract in a new house, closing in a month. Just text last night, she thinks she wants to be closer to another area and possibly rent for a year. So those are two prime examples of what I literally just said. Being closer. So if another home pops up, they may back out in that option period. So if I'm a seller, I may have my agent ask the other agent, do they really want to be in this area? Have they really looked in this area? Have they done their due diligence about their area? Do they know everything about this area? And that's your job as an agent too, is to help inform the client of what's going on. Now, real quick disclaimer. Real estate agents cannot inform you about the schools, the quality of the schools. That is your job to look up on all the different sites. They can tell you where to find it, but they're not allowed to really say this is a bad school or good school, because that could be construed as steering. The other thing they can't do is tell you the crime statistics, because that could also be a problem in steering. So you're going to have to look up those things on your own. Ask your agent for different things to help you there. So these are some of the things that buyers are backing out from. Now, I went and I looked up to see what are some of the other reasons homes are backing out, and affordability issues. Boom. Inspections, we're going to talk about inspections more. Buyer cold feet, increased inventory, and financing problems. Well, financing problems were definitely on the list of what a lot of these realtors said. So let's go through some of the scenarios that have popped up that other realtors have gone through. So Cody here says, first two ever right now. Seller, buyer can't perform, so losing the sale on a contingent purchase of her new home. So what we're seeing is more buyers do a contingent offer. So if they have to sell their home first, they're writing an offer on the new home while their other home is still under contract or hitting the market. You as a seller is probably getting a little desperate. So you say, hey, you know what? I'll take that contingent offer. It doesn't put me in the best situation, but at least I have a fish on the hook, right? Well, if that home doesn't sell, that your buyer needs to sell, if that doesn't happen, then you are in big trouble, because now, if that falls apart, you're stuck with having to put your home back in the market, and that does not look great. So the other one is, told a buyer of a small sewer line belly in advance. Now they're asking for $8,000 in sewer line and entire front enclosed concrete patio to be ripped out because of the lines. My clients bailed after the HOA docs revealed during their due diligence and decided to hold off and save their money to buy. We actually had one almost fell out of contract because of this same thing. Okay. Cheryl says, in so many things, we talk about this frequently in our office, repairs being a top reason. This is one I think is a big problem. This is why I say to do a little bit more due diligence before you go under contract. Is that seller going to be willing to actually fix some of these things? Because I've seen this a lot. You go do an inspection and you get an inspector who scares you, right? So be careful about your inspectors as well. Some inspectors will say, hey, look, this house is a great house. Here's some areas of concern. Get these things addressed. Some inspectors have no tact or bedside manner and will say, this house is on fire, it's falling apart. And then you'll have another inspector look at it and go, these are issues, but they're not going to impact the quality of the house and things like this. So make sure you're getting a good inspector. Make sure you have a good realtor who's not going to scare you as well. And really, realtors, can you please start doing a better job of preparing your clients? Here's what I mean. And look, if you're a realtor watching this, you may know what I mean, but don't kill the messenger here, okay? Listen, in our buyer consultations, typically here's how our buyer consultations will go. Buyer reaches out, says, hey, we're looking to buy a home. Number one, we're gonna go through all the reasons, either why they're moving here, why they're buying, what they want, what they're looking for. Number two, I'm gonna explain what's happening in the market. I'm gonna explain how contracts work. And we're gonna also go through that same thing and talk about where they're buying, right? We're gonna go through and then talk about during the inspection period, here's the things we need to look at. Here's the things that we need to repair. On the same side, sellers, listing agents, you need to talk to your clients about the repairs. Some sellers, and a lot of the comments on here are sellers not wanting to actually fix the repairs. I've seen this happen where an agent will say, it's okay, we'll get under contract, the inspection will show up some things. And then the inspection shows up things and the seller goes, no, I'm not doing that. Then that seller fires you, okay? And then that seller goes and hires another agent who will have a backbone and say, hey, look, this is how it works. Here's how things work. I see it all the time. The other thing is some agents will just want to take a listing because they need the business. Same thing with the buyers. Buyer agents. Some buyer agents will take on a buyer and not fully give them all of their information because they just want to get them under contract. I'm going to get the comments in here are going to be pretty angry at me for saying that, but the agent you hire is very important. Do they really care about protecting you, or do they really want to get a home under contract? I've had so many conversations with buyer agents, with seller agents that are like, oh, this home's sitting on the market, it's not selling. I'm like, well, did you have the conversation about pricing? Well, we priced higher than we should have. Big red flag. right now, I'm talking to a seller, if they're not gonna be reasonable about the price and understand the market, we're just not working with them. I'd rather be the second agent. So these are things, I think agents, you have to do a better job of preparing your clients. And if you're a buyer or seller, ask way more questions to your buyer and your buyer agent and your listing agent right now. Ask as many questions as you can and wear them out with the questions. I'm being dead honest with this because all of the things I'm reading on here could be because of agents just didn't prepare their clients the right way. So Cheryl says buyers need to know all of their expenses up front, go over all the numbers with them. Lenders need to go over numbers with them. These are some reasons local lenders are very important. I think that is a huge thing. And actually, I made this point, and my really good friend, Anthony, he actually says he's a lender as well. He says, I think it's more than just handing someone a price sheet. It's about helping them understand why they're buying real estate in the first place. It's showing them how future values could set them up for a long-term success, what short-term hurdles they may face, and what the long-term gains could be. It's about explaining why buying is better than renting, highlighting the appreciation rates in areas, and showing how average rents are steadily increasing. Now, not all are, but I think the big thing that he talks about is I think it's important for you to really understand the fee sheets. Alyssa says, just had with no representation, we offered the moon and the sky last day of option period. They felt like they were being taken advantage of because they did not have an agent. So again, take the heed, the advice, get an agent. Agents on both sides are not setting the right expectations, transitioning market it. A lot of agents are expecting the closest thing to buyer's market agents are experiencing the closest thing to a buyer's market than they've ever had. Teresa, lack of training for agents. So there's a lot of people agreeing with me that agents are not a problem, not the problem. Mine terminated because they found something better, so I didn't lose the client. We just picked another home, more expensive, and they got a higher commission too. I wouldn't put that in the post, but hey, do you. We talked about Sandra. She also said past seller, now buyer doesn't trust contracts, a lot of hand holding, which is okay. I'm able to help explain buyer contract and that what lender is needing, also second guessing if this is the right one only because she has been taken advantage of in Mexico years ago. Good one. It's so interesting to actually see how a location-specific real estate is. In the Philly burbs, we are still in a solid buyer's market. We are seeing price reductions and longer days on markets, but they are usually overpriced with crappy photos and marketing. It's really sad to see price reductions when the agent hasn't marketed the home to its potential. That's another one. They're probably not appraising or inspecting, is what Brenda says. People still think it's a seller's market, and it's not. People are trying to sell homes now, and they are overpriced and have no room to fix the inspection items. And Henry Padilla, great comment here. Inspections, seller being tight with their $200,000 in equity. I replied with, wouldn't you? And he said, I'm selling my house right now to move to Phoenix, and we got home inspections done and the estimate to fix everything so we can move on. And this is a thing maybe you should have a conversation with your agent on, is should I do a pre-inspection and hand that over to the buyer? That's a conversation between you and your agent. I'm not gonna give any advice on that one, but that is something maybe you should ask. Clay actually questioned the authenticity and look of the 15%, and boom, it's right here. It's in the article. It is 15% cancellation rate. So it's there. April says, for me, the issues with the home and the seller who refuses to acknowledge the issues, or issues with the home that the seller is unable to do anything about financially, even with creative options considered. So two things what she's saying here. Some sellers just can't do the fixes, and some sellers just won't do the fixes, right? Now, we know there's a lot of people that bought in 2022 that are trying to sell, and they're running into issues because they don't have the equity in the home. Some people have a lot of equity in their home. So there's two different things, but sellers not being able to fix things can be a big cause of this. Carmen says, too many choices out there, very easy to walk away with another deal pops up on the market. Buyers need to have more skin in the game when they put in an offer on the property. I think too, this is where you go into just more due diligence before you go into an offer. Rashad says, pools have been extremely challenging. One thing that's really important, concrete cancer in pools here in the Texas area and Austin area back in 2020. There's a whole thing with fly ash. If you want me to do a whole concrete cancer thing, but pools some pools are having to be dug up because they are not holding water, and there's a big problem with those. So look up concrete cancer. Blaine says, I had 2 because the seller wouldn't work with the buyer on post-inspection repairs and another on the foundation and roof. So all of these things are all the reasons that I have talked about through there. So I appreciate all the agents that gave their feedback. And Alyssa says, my buyer canceled 3 times before finally closing. Inspections is the real problem, and it's harder when seller doesn't want to cooperate. And I think, again, it does lend to a little bit of agents having to really help their clients and really give them the information they need to know before they go under contract. Let's look at the markets that are seeing the biggest declines though. Promised you I would give you this information. So the biggest declines were mostly in Florida. So Orlando, 19%, Denver, 16%, Fort Lauderdale, 16%. My hometown, Austin, Texas, 14.6%. Atlanta, Georgia, 19.6% fell out. Anaheim, I think I said that, 15.2%. Cleveland, Ohio, 16.4%. Denver, 16%, I said that. Detroit, 16.9%. So these are some really, really huge numbers. Some of the lowest, New York, only 8.7%. Nassau County, New York, 5.4%. So you're seeing that some of these areas, Seattle, Washington, 8.9%. So some of these areas aren't as bad, some are pretty bad. I'm curious if you're under contract or been under contract, what are some of the reasons that maybe you backed out? I had a whole list of reasons and a lot of these agents helped me out. I'm Jeremy Knight. I like to give you a lot of good information. I hope this was helpful. Again, my biggest 2 tips. Number 1, make sure you go through and ask your agent how to set you up for success. What should you know? Whether you're the buyer on the buyer side or the seller side, these are the biggest things. Make sure your agent is being truthful with you because again, I don't think everything's on the seller, on your agent, but the agent can make or break a good deal and help guide you the right way, or they could be in just for commission. I get that. I understand why people don't like realtors. I do. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Where did I miss? What situations have you seen? And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. I got a whole other channel coming out and you're gonna like that one too, so stay tuned for that.